Hi, and welcome to How to Manage Tech with me, Dean Toothey. In this series that this is the first episode of, I want to talk to you about Agile project management. And in particular, I want to talk to you about my favorite go-to framework called DSDM, Dynamic Systems Development Method. And in this lesson, I want to kick you off by talking to you about the iron triangle, the problem you're going to have with traditional methods and managing the core risks associated with time, budget, and scope. Let's get stuck in. What I want to do is I want to start off by drawing you a triangle representing the three variables that as a project manager you're going to be wrestling with, all right? What I want to do now is I want to add in this triangle. So let me draw it for you like this. Nice big triangle. I've deliberately drawn it upside down. I'll explain why. And we're having a conversation here about what we know as the iron triangle. And these are three variables or three tension metrics. And I mentioned that framework, Dynamic Systems Development Method. The three variables are time, or your schedule, budget, your cost, your money, your resources, and the scope or the features that you have to incorporate in the solution. Now, what's happening here is that these are in tension. In other words, in order to try and build everything that has been asked for in the solution, we might find ourselves going over budget and over time. And what happens is risks manifest in our project. We're doing things new that we haven't done before, and these delays set in, things take longer than we thought, and things get more expensive than we originally thought. When you are locked into delivering on a fixed scope, in other words, a fixed specification, it's very common in fixed price, fixed specification contracts when we outsource the work to a supplier or a vendor. We attempt to shift the risk to them of non-delivery. What happens is that we unwittingly set ourselves up for failure, to be honest. We lock off this scope, and then what that means is that if things are going to flex, and they're going to flex elsewhere, and I'll show you what I mean here, the scope is locked off, and I want to suggest that that's like a foundation, right? Like a big block of concrete, if you like. And you can see that that triangle, upside down, looks pretty fragile, balanced on its tip like that, even though it's got this sort of block of concrete underneath. If we get into trouble delivering all of these features, then what happens is the triangle's going to wobble up here. And there is really a fourth element to that, and that's quality. Again, quality should not become a variable. We should be able to agree on a level of quality. It can be low quality, but we should be able to agree on it and deliver to that. If we've agreed high quality, it shouldn't become a variable, but it does. And so what happens is this. Here we are, we've promised to deliver 100% of everything that was originally asked for. This is a locked off full specification. And we've set this expectation in the minds of our sponsors and our users that they're going to get this. And so we inevitably start to run into issues, especially where requirements won't stand still, especially where we're learning, creating, innovating, disrupting, experimenting, right? You need a lot more latitude under these circumstances, especially to iterate and try things out. But inevitably what happens is things take longer and they become more expensive to get delivered. Then, because we're locked into this 100%, we end up starting to run late. Now, we might start to push back the deadline and push back the delivery until we hit this brick wall, at which point we can't go any later. And so now we start to ask for more money. So we're over budget, and we've spent 2.5% and 5% and 7.5% and 10% and 15% more money than was originally allocated, possibly even more, possibly tripled, gone completely out the door. And then what happens is we start to deliver substandard deliverables, buggy, defective work, right? And so the quality is allowed to drop. And then eventually in desperation, when our deliverables start to get rejected because of poor quality, we start to de-scope features from the solution. If we're not careful, we've left absolutely critical core features to the very end, and de-scoping them is an instant project fail. So we end up having gone over budget, over time, and delivering something that doesn't actually work. And this does happen routinely with projects, right? Let's turn this on its head, and this is unique to DSDM, by the way, and let's show how we can get projects delivering on time, on budget, on quality, something that works every time. And you'll notice some specific language there. Let me show you how this works. I'm going to flip this triangle upside down. So now what happens then is, in order to guarantee on time, on budget delivery, we're going to lock off the schedule, lock off our time frame, right, and say, okay, it will be delivered on the day that we estimated. And there is a trick here that we do use ranges in the early days, a range of estimates, but that's all right. We will say, and to the budget, to the resources that we're allocated, we won't go over that, not a single cent, and we will deliver to the agreed quality, right? That's also locked off. Probably should draw a little locking off here like so. And instead, what we're going to do is flex on scope. How is this possible? How is it that we're able to start doing something radically different like this in projects? We're going to tackle a fundamental assumption, and that is not all features are of equal business value. In fact, some of the things in there will be like wish lists or nice to haves and so on. When you present a sponsor or a business representative with a choice between, do you want me to build this feature or go over budget, or do you want me to build this feature and threaten the whole project running late? They might say it's not worth it. We can de-scope that. We can leave it out. The trick is to now discover flex, as it's known, within the scope. This can't be a free-for-all. What we do is we put a structured method, and this is all encoded into the DSDM framework, but we use a thing called MOSCO, which stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have. And the way MOSCO works is like this. All of our features will now be prioritized according to this scheme. The must-have features have to be delivered, which makes sense, right? The should-have features are very important to have in there, but they can be left out as a last resort to protect the time and the budget without threatening the whole project. Could have, nice to have. We're actually going to use a ratio here, but we're going to allocate a upfront amount of effort of 60-20-20. And then what this means is that we are fully expecting to deliver all of the must-haves and most of the should-haves in a normal project. So on time, on budget, on quality, we will deliver you something that works, right? And we're expecting that to be 80%, all your musts and all your shoulds. Worst case scenario, we'll ditch the coulds, ditch the shoulds, and still have our core workable set of must-have, and they represent the minimum usable subset. Now, best case scenario, you get all the musts, all the shoulds, and even most of your coulds, so around about 100%. But let's manage our user and sponsor expectations to say on time, on budget, on quality, you'll get about 80% is a reasonable expected case. Everything goes smoothly up to 100%. If things go pretty badly, 60%. This 60-20-20 ratio is obviously guidance. I'll talk about how we massage our requirements so that the predicted effort fits this pattern. But this is ideal, as I said, for experimentation where requirements can be quite dynamic, for innovation, for disruption. So let's just get that 80% on there, set that in the minds of our stakeholders. And there's one last really important message. And as a project manager, you're going to spend most of your time drawing this iron triangle for all your stakeholders if they haven't tried this method before. I can promise you, so it's really important to get this messaging right. There's a bunch of key business roles within the DSDM method. Now, I'll show you the roles in another lesson, but importantly, what happens is a decision to de-scope a feature is a business decision. They weigh up the value of having that feature versus the value of being on time or being late or being over budget or being under quality. And if the feature is worth less than being on target for either of those two things, then the feature can get dropped. And so the business is in charge, right? This is not something that the vendor or the provider or the developers or the techs, this is not something being done to the customer, to the user. This is something that they are fully collaborating on. I hope you found that intriguing. That's the iron triangle. That's the pitch for DSDM. Please come back on the next episode. And what I want to do is show you a little bit more about traditional versus agile. And again, how we can start to break conventions and start to get really stellar results. By the way, have you seen how much agile project managers are getting paid and how many jobs there are? I can't commend this stuff enough to you if you really want to advance your career that way. And you just simply want to have better success in what you do. I'll see you soon. If you like this video, then hit the like button and subscribe. Remember to hit the bell notification so you'll be updated when I release a new lesson. And feel free to share this lesson with anyone you think who might get value out of it. I've added some cards to the next lessons you might want to watch after this one. Feel free to ask me any questions or leave a comment below, along with any ideas you have for future videos. Thanks very much for watching. I look forward to chatting to you more soon.